Heaven saw everything. Archangel Michael says what happened in private was never hidden. God is responding now. My beloved child, everything that once felt silent, everything that once felt unseen, everything that once felt hidden in the dark corners of memories where even you refused to look anymore, heaven already saw it. And heaven did not look away. This is where the message begins. Because what you think was private, what you think was covered, erased, or forgotten was never once invisible to the ones assigned to your soul since the beginning of your existence. Today is not just a narration. Today is not just another angelic message video. Today is the beginning of accountability, divine exposure, and emotional correction from above. This is why you are here at this exact moment, in this exact timeline, with this exact message on your screen right now. You were not brought here accidentally. Your soul is not scrolling here by coincidence. There is a divine alignment happening silently behind your life, and you don't even realize how many moments shifted behind the curtain to lead you here. The reason heaven is responding now is because the silent pain, the silent betrayal, the silent injustice, the silent crying that nobody ever acknowledged in your journey is being recorded as evidence in the spiritual court. People might say things disappear over time. But heaven does not operate on human forgetting. Heaven stores every tear, every wound, every tremble of your chest that kept breaking silently when you didn't even have the strength to speak. That is why this message is now active. Archangel Michael is stepping forward in this timeline for you, not because of something ordinary, but because something major shifted in your destiny. The scale tipped. The balance changed. The spiritual weight of your suffering reached a threshold where heaven finally issued the order to respond. This is the moment you are entering now. Even if you think your past trauma was small, even if you think it was long ago, even if you think I survived it so it doesn't matter anymore. Heaven never dismissed it. In the realm of divine justice, time does not age pain. Pain remains valid until healed, acknowledged, cleared, and compensated spiritually. The things done behind your back, the conversations spoken about you behind closed doors, the decisions people made about you in private rooms while pretending in front of you as if they love you, these things were not missing from heaven's records. God never ignored it. Archangel Michael is revealing now that exact line from the spiritual report. What happened in private was never hidden because there are karmic consequences riding now, not revenge, not punishment, but divine restoration, because only heaven can return balance the correct way. There were people who underestimated you deeply, people who laughed inside while smiling outside, people who betrayed you mentally before they betrayed you physically, people who doubted your anointing without even knowing your calling, people who were jealous of you at a level you will never fully understand because it wasn't logical jealousy, it was spiritual jealousy. Your soul irritated their demons without you even speaking. Your spirit activated their insecurities without you doing anything wrong. And because of that, some of these people tried to alter your destiny timeline in subtle ways. They tried to delay you. They tried to make you doubt yourself. They tried to make you choose smaller versions of your future. They tried to make you feel unworthy, undeserving, and forgettable. But heaven never forgot you. Every moment you stayed silent, heaven was watching the conversations above. Every moment you chose peace instead of fighting dirty, heaven added protection credits into your ledger. Every moment you decided to heal instead of retaliate, heaven placed you under divine priority. That is why this year is not going to repeat the past cycle. That is why things that failed last time are going to turn this time. That is why closed doors are going to reopen in ways you didn't even imagine possible. Because heaven is stepping in now with accountability, and the people who once thought they were safe while discussing you behind your back will now witness how heaven elevates you in front of every narrative they tried to control. This is not ego. This is divine compensation. There is something major preparing itself in your destiny. It is not normal and it is not small. Something huge is aligning with you like a sudden spiritual earthquake that no one on earth expected. Something is shifting that will change what you thought your future would look like. In fact, even if you were prepared mentally, you would not be able to handle the generational magnitude of what heaven is about to deliver. Because God is not responding emotionally. God is responding legally. The spiritual court is now closing your old case file because your soul has reached the frequency of completion. The last wounds you carried unconsciously have finally surfaced enough to be processed. So the timeline correction can now begin. Heaven is not returning what you lost in equal value. Heaven is returning it multiplied. Because the magnitude of spiritual interference against you was not small either. This is the moment where you are stepping into a season where your life is about to reflect everything God saw silently while the world ignored it. The reason you were chosen to receive this message today is because heaven wants you to emotionally prepare. What is coming next is not gradual. It will be sudden. It will be shocking. It will be disruptive to your entire identity because you will never again be the same person you were during your suffering season. Heaven saw everything. And because heaven saw everything, heaven has now decided everything. Divine reversal had been authorized. And once heaven authorizes something, no human source can block it. No outsider can delay it. Lohin and Anamika reverse it. This is only part 1. The next parts will expose deeper spiritual movements connected to what was done behind your back and why divine correction is activating now. This is where your manifestation timeline begins to shift at a supernatural pace. And this is why you must stay aligned to receive every section of this revelation journey. Because each part will open a deeper layer and each part will upgrade your spiritual acceptability for what God is about to release. Watch the next revelation. My beloved child, this new section begins with a deeper shift happening inside your timeline right now. The energy around you is becoming different. The way heaven is preparing you is not emotional preparation. It is identity recalibration. Archangel Michael says you do not even realize how close you are to the moment where everything in your destiny starts aligning faster than logic. Faster than prediction. Faster than anything you have ever experienced. There is an invisible countdown already active in the spiritual dimension. And before this countdown completes, heaven needs your mind to understand the truth behind the hidden conversations that once tried to damage your direction. Because the biggest correction heaven can do is not in your external world. The biggest correction starts within the subconscious layer that someone tried to infect silently long ago. There was a time where you believed someone loved you genuinely. There was a time you trusted someone without calculating the intentions behind their tone. There was a time where you gave someone access to your vulnerability, your fears, your dreams, your secrets, your confusion, and your hopes. You thought giving someone access to your heart was a safe thing to do. You thought loyalty would return loyalty. You thought love would return love. You thought truth would return truth. But what you didn't know at that time was that this person was silently observing your weaknesses, not to protect you but to benefit off those weaknesses when needed. They used your softness as leverage, they used your honesty as a tool. They used your innocence as a blind spot. And for the longest period you never knew that heaven recorded that betrayal not as a mistake but as a spiritual crime. This is why part 2 must go deeper than emotional storytelling. This part is the revelation of motive. People who betrayed you in private were not doing it casually or randomly, they were doing it because your soul threatened their identity without you even understanding how. Your existence made them feel less powerful. Your future made them insecure. Your potential made them anxious. Your silent strength made them uncomfortable. And because they could not stop the light inside you, they tried to create shadows over your destiny so that you would never notice how bright your purpose truly is. But heaven saw this entire process unfold frame by frame. Heaven documented every silent intention, every betrayal disguised as sympathy, every fake compliment disguised as support, every manipulative sentence disguised as advice. And this is why this year the karmic dimension is returning the spiritual balance. God is not responding now because you prayed louder recently. God is responding now because the timeline reached the point where the invisible was no longer allowed to remain hidden. When spiritual injustice reaches a saturation point, heaven begins technological restoration within destiny structure. This is where your situation is now. The people who did you wrong felt safe because nobody on earth had evidence. But heaven had evidence. Heaven always had the real transcript. Heaven always had the real memory play deck. They thought because the conversations happened in private, there would never be accountability. They forgot that the one who assigned angels to watch over you never sleeps. Archangel Michael says this is the part where the divine timeline flips. This is where situations begin working in your favor unexpectedly. This is where phone calls start coming that change your direction. This is where opportunities you thought were dead resurrect without announcement. This is where names you thought were irrelevant suddenly return in divine timing, but this time without manipulation. Heaven is not giving you back what you lost. Heaven is giving you what was always meant for you but delayed by interference. Because this message is not about revenge. This message is about divine compensation. There were seasons where people treated you like background energy. They thought you were replaceable. They thought you were forgettable. They thought you were disposable. They acted like you would never rise higher than them. They acted like your life would remain stuck below theirs. They acted like you would never reach the level where they once tried to block you from entering. But heaven has now decided to elevate you publicly. Heaven has decided that the same people who thought you were powerless will now watch how heaven multiplies your influence, your voice, your impact, and your purpose in front of them. And the most shocking part is this. Heaven is not just correcting your future. Heaven is rewriting your emotional history. Your mind will stop replaying pain as memory. Instead, your future experiences will overwrite these memories so aggressively that the pain that once broke you will become irrelevant to your identity. You will not just survive. You will not just move forward. You will become so elevated spiritually that your past will no longer have the power to define who you are becoming. You are not entering a normal chapter. You are entering a destiny pivot. Archangel Michael says you are stepping into a timeline where your name is being whispered in rooms that your human presence has not even entered yet. People who once disrespected you will silently observe you because they will no longer have the courage to speak directly. They will try to reconnect with you indirectly. They will try to act supportive once they see your life rising, but heaven will guide you regarding who is allowed back in and who must stay out permanently. Because this time, God is not just opening doors. God is also assigning boundaries. This is why you must emotionally stay aware as this message continues through next parts. The shift that is coming is not gentle. It is sudden. It is unfiltered. It is engineered by divine legal authority, not emotional interpretation. And the shock value of what heaven will reveal ahead will transform the way you see your past forever. This is only the second part. The next parts will expose what exact energy tried to block you and why heaven didn't interfere earlier and why heaven waited till this specific time stamp in your destiny to activate response. Do not ignore what is coming next. In this stage of revelation, the spiritual narrative is no longer about what was done to you in the past, but what heaven is about to elevate you into next. This part is where the timeline begins to bend. Where destiny begins to accelerate, where what was once wounded becomes for your divine purpose. Archangel Michael says that this stage of your life is not about replaying the emotional damage anymore. This stage is where your identity becomes resurrected into something unrecognizable even to you. The old version of you is already dissolving silently. The new version of you is forming in real time. And this version is not shaped by fear, trauma, doubt, manipulation, or memory. It is shaped by divine authority. A strange but powerful truth is being revealed now. The reason the betrayal hurt you so deeply was not because you were weak. The reason it hurt you so deeply was because you were pure. People return to attack what they cannot produce themselves. People return to destroy what they cannot replace. People return to corrupt what they cannot become. And in your journey, there was something inside you that did not make sense to people who were spiritually disconnected from themselves. They wanted to force you into becoming like them. They wanted to redirect your emotional vibration to match their insecurity. They wanted you small, silent, fearful, broken, and believing that you would never grow beyond the limitations they mentally placed around your life. But heaven allowed you to go through the season not to punish you, but to prepare you. Pain forged your spiritual code. Rejection refined your emotional clarity. Loneliness amplified your inner radar. All the moments you thought were unfair were actually the building blocks of your divine intelligence. Heaven does not waste pain. Heaven converts pain. Heaven transforms pain into calibration. Heaven turns pain into intuition. Heaven turns pain into divine accuracy. Everything that wounded you privately has now become spiritual leverage publicly. And this is why your next season cannot be manipulated anymore. You are not the same person people broke the first time. This time you are moving with the clarity that was earned through heartbreak. This is the moment where your soul becomes immune to their influence. Archangel Michael says the spiritual exposure that is coming is not small. Heaven is going to show you exactly who each soul was in your story. You will see the truth in dreams, you will see the truth in signs. You will see the truth in sudden interactions you didn't expect. You will feel the shift in the air around you. The more heaven restores you, the more heaven will expose what needed to be removed. People who lied about you will suddenly receive exposure in ways they never imagined. People who pretended to care will suddenly lose access to your energy permanently. People who tried to emotionally break you will eventually be forced to watch your elevation as a consequence they cannot escape. Heaven does not need your revenge. Heaven uses your success as closure. This part is important. Do not let your heart start believing that justice is about seeing them collapse. Justice is about seeing you rise. The divine timeline is not about balancing emotion for emotion. The divine timeline is about restructuring identity through expansion. You are not getting back the old version of your life. You are stepping into a futuristic, advanced, higher version of your life that never existed before. Heaven is not returning you to a previous season. Heaven is launching you into a season that never existed in your storyline. And this launch will not be subtle. There will be a moment coming very soon where something will shift without announcement. It may be a conversation. It may be a message. It may be a sudden opportunity. It may be a sudden realization inside your heart, but when the shift hits your timeline, nothing will be able to return to the way it used to be before this moment. Heaven is preparing you emotionally now so that when the shift arrives, you will not collapse or become overwhelmed by the magnitude. Instead, you will step into it with confidence that is finally grounded in your divine identity. The shock will not destroy you. The shock will awaken you. Archangel Michael says you have been chosen for this moment from before the disruption even began. That is why your spirit feels different than other people around you. You were not created to remain average. You were not created to remain in repetition cycles. You were not created to stay stuck in timelines where other people control your emotional potential. You were built for spiritual elevation. And now that the spiritual court has activated timeline correction, nothing can stop heaven from fulfilling the restoration process that is already in motion. This part of your journey is also where you will suddenly notice your emotional detachment becoming stronger naturally. You will stop feeling responsible for other people's actions. You will stop feeling guilty for walking away. You will stop trying to prove your worth to those who were never meant to understand it. You will stop allowing your compassion to be misused by people with selfish motives. Because heaven is healing the emotional vulnerability that once made you easy to manipulate. Heaven is sealing the cracks that once allowed others to insert influence into your subconscious. Heaven is closing the gateways of old patterns permanently. Something you should understand deeply now: closure is no longer dependent on conversation. Error will come from transformation. When you elevate, the past becomes powerless. When you expand, the old identity dissolves by default. When you step into divine alignment, the old betrayals lose their emotional authority. You will not chase closure. You will create closure through becoming who heaven always knew you were destined to become. This is why Archangel Michael says in this part, protect your energy now. Protect your heart. Protect your direction. Protect your focus. Do not get distracted by old narratives trying to drag you backwards. They no longer have permission to define you. You are about to step into a major life sequence where every single thing that once caused you emotional bleeding will now become evidence of divine intervention. Heaven is not only watching and more. Heaven is acting, heaven is responding. Heaven is adjusting the spiritual vibration around your existence. This is not ordinary destiny manifestation. This is divine reconstruction. And when you understand that heaven never allowed anything to be hidden, you finally realize that every plot against you was actually used as blueprint to build your rise. The betrayal you survived was not the end. It was the foundation. Watch the next revelation. My beloved child, this part begins with a new shift in the atmosphere around your destiny. From this moment onward, heaven wants you to understand not just what was seen, not just what was documented, but why the divine response is happening now and not earlier. There is a timing law in the spiritual realm that the human mind rarely understands. God does not react emotionally. God moves strategically. When you were crying, heaven was not ignoring you. Heaven was measuring the timeline. When you were breaking inside silently, heaven was not absent. Heaven was calculating the perfect moment where intervention would produce a reversible change. If heaven corrected the situation too early, you would have returned emotionally to those same people again. If you would have been blessed too early, you would have carried those same unhealed wounds into a new level. Heaven waited until your vibration disconnected from your old attachments. Heaven waited until your value no longer depended on external validation. Heaven waited until your heart gained independence from those who once fed on your weakness. This is why response is happening now. Not when you were crying for it. Not when you were begging for it. But when your spirit reached readiness for it. There are people who still cannot understand why you never collapsed permanently. They don't understand how you kept showing up, even when your soul felt empty. They don't understand how you kept building, even when nothing was happening. They don't understand how you kept believing, even after disappointment tried to rewrite your logic. And they will soon understand that your survival was not random. Your survival was not emotional coincidence. Your survival was divine evidence. Your survival is the proof that you were being carried, not by your own strength, but by angelic authority assigned to your timeline from the beginning. Archangel Michael says you survived because you were not allowed to fail. Your assignment was never allowed to die. The enemy did not have the right to close your future, even if they tried in silence. This part is where the emotional architecture of your story turns into spiritual architecture. Everything that once felt like heartbreak is becoming fuel, everything that once felt like suffering is becoming acceleration. You are becoming someone who no longer thinks small. You are becoming someone who no longer seeks permission to expand. You are becoming someone who no longer attaches identity to rejection. You are becoming someone who walks with a different level of certainty. And heaven is preparing you not just to receive divine justice, but to maintain it, sustain it, stabilize it, and protect it. The people who once hurt you are now becoming irrelevant characters in your destiny. Heaven is taking focus away from them and restoring that focus back onto you. Because the next part of your timeline is not about who abandoned you. It is not about who betrayed you. It is not about who lied about you. It is about who you are becoming. You are stepping into a season where emotional memory will no longer make you weak. You are stepping into a season where your peace is no longer negotiable. You are stepping into a season where your value becomes undeniable. Your destiny is no longer in a locked cycle. You are stepping into a quantum shift season. And this shift will create ripple effects in every dimension of your existence: emotional, financial, relational, spiritual, physical, energetic, and identity-based. You will begin feeling a new type of calmness within yourself. A calmness that is not silence of emptiness, but silence of power. This calmness means heaven has taken control of the situation. This calmness means your spirit finally trusts what heaven is doing. This calmness means you have matured emotionally beyond the point of manipulation. In the next stages, your heart will feel lighter. Your mind will feel clearer. Your intuition will feel sharper. You will start recognizing divine timing not through fear but through clarity and peace. This is the evidence that the transformation has fully locked in. Archangel Michael says you are being moved into a season where the divine plan becomes visible to you in patterns. Suddenly you will see how all the events of your past were not mistakes but placement devices. The people who hurt you were redirection mechanisms. The heartbreak was timeline detachment from the wrong version of your life. The deep pain was identity evolution. The separation was destiny purification. Your betrayal was your protection disguised as loss. They pushed you towards the future without even knowing they were serving your ascension path. Sometimes the enemy becomes the worker of heaven without realizing it. Sometimes those who break you become those who build you indirectly. This next stage is also where your connection with your future people begins forming. There are souls waiting ahead in your timeline who will love you genuinely, who will honor you correctly, who will value your presence without manipulating your vulnerability, who will protect your energy, who will support your becoming, who will encourage your growth, who will respect your spirit. You will not need to beg for emotional safety anymore. Divine alignment brings people who treat your peace as priority. Divine alignment brings people who see who you are without needing you to prove it. Divine alignment brings people who understand your value simply by feeling your presence. My beloved child, this part begins with the moment heaven begins shifting the narrative in your favor directly. Up until now, everything that was revealed was about your past. The hidden betrayal, the private conversations, the silent pain you carried without anyone recognizing the emotional weight you lived with daily. But now, the direction of this message is turning toward the future. This is the part where heaven makes sure you emotionally prepare for the level of elevation that is coming so you do not self-sabotage when blessings begin arriving faster than your logical mind can process. Archangel Michael says you are entering a divine acceleration zone, and once you enter this zone, you cannot return to your old emotional patterns. This is the season where you must think differently, feel differently, respond differently, and expect differently. Because what is coming next is not just breakthrough. What is coming next is identity revelation. There is a version of you that heaven already sees. This version of you is not broken. This version of you is not doubting. This version of you is not scared of abandonment. This version of you is not confused about worthiness. This version of you is not emotionally reactive to the opinions of others. This version of you is stable. disciplined, aligned, and rooted in a sense of divine self-respect that cannot be interrupted by anyone's temporary presence or absence. This version of you is already alive inside your spirit. You have felt glimpses of it before. Those moments where suddenly you feel confident for no reason. Those moments where suddenly you don't care what others think. Those moments where suddenly you feel powerful without needing external approval. Those moments were not random. Those moments were glimpses of who you are becoming permanently. Archangel Michael wants you to understand why heaven waited this long to activate your shift. Because heaven was not just preparing your blessing. Heaven was preparing you to carry the blessing. A blessing is not impactful if the person receiving it still thinks like the version that was betrayed. A blessing is not stable if the person receiving it still sees themselves through trauma lenses. A blessing is not secure if the person receiving it still allows emotional access to the wrong people. You cannot manifest destiny while carrying the emotional wounds created by people who were never meant to stay in your life. That is why this transformation had to take time. You were not just being healed. You were being upgraded from the inside out. Now, the next part of this revelation goes deeper. There were specific moments in your life where you thought everything collapsed beyond repair. In those moments, you assumed life was closing in, not expanding. But heaven says those collapses were divine extraction. Your spirit was being pulled out of an environment that would have destroyed your purpose if you stayed longer. You think you lost a people. Heaven says you escaped spiritual sabotage. You think you lost time. Heaven says you were being pushed outside of a timeline that was never aligned with your soul contract. You think you lost chances. Heaven says you were being redirected to higher destiny access points. Everything that felt like a loss was actually a relocation tool. You see, destiny is not smooth. Destiny is disruptive. Destiny breaks comfort to rebuild identity. Destiny exposes lies to reveal truth. Destiny closes doors, not to trap you, but to force you into the direction you were always meant to walk. You cannot become who heaven designed you to be if you stay emotionally connected to who broke you before. And now, heaven is shifting you away from what was, into what will be. There is a moment coming where you will suddenly feel like things are happening too fast. But fast manifestation is not chaos. Fast manifestation is divine timing catching up to everything you were delayed from receiving previously. When breakthroughs arrive quickly, it is not luck. It is compensation. It is heaven returning everything you deserve in multiplied form because you carried pain with grace instead of revenge. You allowed heaven to fight silently for you instead of becoming consumed by bitterness. That spiritual restraint is about to be rewarded openly. Archangel Michael also says there is a major emotional key in this part. Do not allow your mind to expect old patterns to repeat. Do not allow your subconscious to anticipate disappointment. Do not allow trauma memory to sabotage divine opportunity. The emotional frequency that created your past pain cannot be allowed to shape your future expectations. This season requires faith, not fear. This season requires openness, not defensive walls. This season requires alignment, not survival mode. And this shift inside your mind must begin now. As your elevation begins, people from your past may attempt to reconnect again. They may sense the shift. They may feel energetically that you are rising. Some of them will pretend to support you this time, not because they value you, but because they fear being left behind by your elevation. You must choose wisely now. Heaven will send signals. Heaven will strengthen your discernment. You will know who is aligned and who is pretending. Elevation requires emotional intelligence. And heaven is giving you both. This part also reveals another powerful truth. Your blessing has a bigger purpose than just your comfort. The blessing that is coming is not just for you to enjoy privately. Your blessing has a mission attached. Your blessing will change how others see themselves. Your blessing will inspire transformation in other souls. Your blessing will activate divine awakening in those connected to your purpose. You were chosen not just to receive. You were chosen to represent. And when heaven elevates you, the world will be touched through your journey. When the next phase begins manifesting physically, you will look back at the past pain and realize it was not punishment. It was preparation for capacity. Heaven did not allow you to break permanently because heaven planned to use you as evidence that divine justice is real. Divine timing is real. Divine restoration is real. And the moment people see what heaven is about to do in your life, they will not just see blessing. They will see proof that heaven never abandons the innocent. Archangel Michael says keep your heart aligned because the peak of this divine reversal is closer than you think. In the next part, we will step into the exact mechanics of how heaven will deliver the correction publicly and why the ones who tried to harm you will now witness your rise from a distance they cannot cross anymore. Stay till the end. My beloved child, this part opens the dimension where the invisible begins to translate into undeniable physical evidence. This is the stage where divine justice becomes visible. Where you begin to see God's response not just spiritually, not just emotionally, but practically, tangibly, measurably, undeniably. The transformation that was happening inside your soul and spirit is now becoming an external demonstration. Heaven did not simply watch what was done to you in private, heaven archived it. Heaven documented it. Heaven stored it, and heaven has chosen this season to release the correction. Archangel Michael says you are entering the stage where the world will finally see what heaven always knew about you. You were never average. You were never replaceable. You were never someone who could be erased. You were chosen. You are chosen. Your destiny was always protected even when your heart was breaking. There were nights where you whispered in silence, "Why me?" There were days where you felt like the universe abandoned you. There were moments where you felt like life was against you. There were seasons where betrayal felt heavier than your own breath. You held pain so deep in your chest that nobody knew how hard you were trying just to hold yourself together. You walked through life pretending you were okay when inside you were screaming. You carried wounds you had no language for. You cried tears nobody ever saw. You suffered through impact nobody ever apologized for. But this is exactly why heaven is responding now. The justice that is coming your way is not because you demanded it. It is because you deserve it. Heaven honors the silent warriors. Heaven honors the souls who choose healing rather than hate. Heaven honors those who choose the high road when ego and revenge would have been easier. Heaven honors those who remain pure even after being misused. Archangel Michael says the divine reversal will not begin where you expect. It will begin from a direction you never considered. Heaven is not repairing your life from within the circle of the people who wounded you. Heaven is bypassing them completely. The blessing that is about to enter your life is coming through new channels, new people, new paths, new alignments, new opportunities. Not recycled ones and not patched up old ones. Entirely new. Heaven is not reusing anything that came from people who damaged your trust. Heaven is resetting the entire template of your destiny. This is why your next season will not resemble your previous life at all. Everything is changing from the root. Every dimension is shifting from the core. You are stepping into a future version of yourself that those who betrayed you would never recognize. This part is extremely important because heaven is forcing you to emotionally detach from the belief that your blessing must come through those who once hurt you. No, my beloved child. Your blessing will come in spite of them, not through them. The people who tried to limit your destiny will now see you rise without their involvement. They cannot interfere anymore. They cannot influence anymore. They cannot access you anymore. The spiritual permission is revoked. Your elevation is sealed. Your new season is locked, and heaven will make sure you never fall back into vibration levels that made you vulnerable before. There is going to be a moment soon where you will suddenly feel something shift inside your mind. A moment where you will mentally break free from an identity that was subconsciously tied to your trauma. This is not just healing. This is rebirth. This is you stepping into a version of yourself that is no longer defined by what happened to you, but defined by who you were always destined to become. A betrayal did not destroy you. The betrayal activated your blueprint. The betrayal forced you into destiny direction. The betrayal was the final catalyst that unlocked your divine timeline. And Archangel Michael says there is still one more layer to understand. Every delay that happened in your life had purpose. Delay was not denial. Delay was development. Delay was dismantling the old patterns inside you that would have blocked the blessing from being sustained. Delay taught you emotional strength. Delay taught you self-respect. Delay taught you spiritual discernment. Delay taught you identity protection. Delay was heaven preparing capacity inside you for the life that is about to open ahead of you now. If you had received the blessing earlier, you would have given access to the wrong souls. If you had risen earlier, you would have carried betrayal energy into your new level. If the manifestation had come earlier, you would have been emotionally dependent on the ones who hurt your heart before. Heaven waited because heaven needed you unshakable before heaven made you unstoppable. This part also reveals something heaven is strongly emphasizing. Do not shrink yourself in this next season. Do not feel guilty when elevation begins happening visibly. Do not hold back your shine to make others feel comfortable. Do not minimize your growth just to maintain old connections. This part of your journey requires confidence, not fear. You must own who you are becoming. You must stand in your divine identity. You must accept that you were always meant to rise higher than the storyline the enemy once tried to limit you with. The same energy that once attacked you is now powerless against you. You are going to feel a new boldness inside you. You are going to experience a new mindset forming automatically. You are going to shift from survival to leadership. You are going to step into rooms mentally that you used to only dream about emotionally. Because heaven is now aligning you with souls who will celebrate your rise, not fear it. You are about to discover that the world is much bigger than the circle that once tried to shrink your identity. And you will realize that those who left were never meant to be part of your legacy. They were only part of your lesson. Before the next part begins, remember this clearly. Heaven saw everything. Nothing was hidden. Nothing was ignored. Nothing was forgotten. The justice that is coming is not emotional justice, it is divine justice. And divine justice is permanent, not temporary. This is the season where your life becomes the proof that heaven responds at the perfect time. And what is coming next will not just heal you, it will empower you. Watch the next revelation. My beloved child, this part begins with the next layer of truth that heaven needs you to emotionally integrate before the final shift begins. In this stage of your destiny timeline, you are no longer standing in the vibration of pain, you are standing in the vibration of transformation. What was once your weakness has now become your calibration. What was once emotional injury is now spiritual intelligence. And this is the exact stage heaven wanted you to reach before the divine reversal becomes physically noticeable. Archangel Michael says this exact moment in your story is where your spirit moves from recovery into revelation, from reflection into alignment, from endurance into activation. Heaven always knew you were not going to stay in the identity of someone who was broken. Heaven always knew you were being formed into someone who would eventually rise so powerfully that every silent wound would become a prophetic symbol of why you deserved what heaven is sending now. There is a very important truth unfolding here. The version of you that people damaged in private never got to show her full potential publicly. They tried to limit you before you could ever realize how powerful your future identity actually is. They tried to define your expectation of life through the lens of their own fear. They tried to manipulate your worth by restricting what you believe you deserve. They tried to control your emotional direction so you would never expand beyond the smallness they felt comfortable inside. You did not know then that their limitation had nothing to do with your value. Their limitation was a reflection of their own spiritual restriction, but heaven is making sure you know now that every person who once made you feel like you were not enough is about to become witness to the version of you they never believed existed. This is the season where the roles shift entirely. The one who was once underestimated becomes the one who leads, the one who was once doubted becomes the one who confirms truth. The one who was once abandoned becomes the one who outgrows every narrative built against them. You are no longer the character others described. You are stepping into the identity heaven designed. The world will see the difference. The world will feel the change. The world will recognize your strength without requiring explanation. Heaven did not bring you through the fire to leave you small. Heaven brought you through the fire to forge you into someone unstoppable. Archangel Michael says there is something extremely powerful about the level of emotional resilience you developed during the silent seasons. You learned how to rebuild yourself without applause. You learned how to heal without being understood. You learned how to stay gentle while being mistreated. You learned how to forgive without receiving closure. And this emotional mastery is rare. This level of internal balance is not normal. Most people break permanently under pressure like this. But you survived it, you processed it. You rose above it. And now this spiritual maturity is what qualifies you for the blessings that are coming. There is a structure to divine elevation. Heaven does not elevate souls. You cannot preserve blessings. You had to feel the absence so that when the blessing arrives, you never take it for granted. You had to face abandonment so that when divine connection arrives, you can recognize the difference between real alignment and emotional manipulation. You had to experience betrayal so that when authentic love appears, you know how to honor it without fear. The pain taught you discernment. The pain taught you sacred boundaries. The pain taught you emotional intelligence. And all of this was necessary for what heaven is preparing now. As this stage unfolds, you are going to feel a new emotional clarity. You will not overthink like before. You will not internalize fear like before. You will not give free access to your energy like before. People who once had the power to destroy your mood will no longer have any emotional influence over you. You will no longer interpret yourself through the eyes of those who could not see your light. You will no longer allow anyone to speak into your destiny who was never assigned to it by heaven. This is where you become spiritually protected not just by angels but by the new identity you now embody. And here is where the energy begins shifting into future-based manifestation. Heaven is ready to align new love, new support, new destiny partnerships, new opportunities, new divine connections, new soul contracts, new healing paths, new elevation platforms. Nothing from your past has the authority to interfere with what is being released now. The spiritual realm is preparing a moment that will shock you emotionally. A moment where something aligns so perfectly that you will instantly know this was never coincidence. This was divine mathematics. This was heaven responding now. Archangel Michael says there will be a supernatural synchronization around your name soon. You might see repeated signs. You might feel sudden excitement for no reason. You might receive messages from unexpected directions. People may start recognizing your value all at once. Financial opportunities may suddenly appear without you chasing them. These will be heavenly signals that the final stage divine reversal is in motion. Heaven is not subtle in this stage. Heaven is direct. Heaven is deliberate. Heaven is decisive. This part ends with one final truth you must carry deep inside your heart. You did not go through everything just to survive. You went through everything so that when this elevation happens, you become the living proof that nothing done against you in secret had the power to stop what heaven already planned openly for your future. Do not ignore what comes next. My beloved child, this final part confirms what heaven already sealed. The pain you lived through is no longer your identity. You are stepping into a future built on truth, strength, alignment, and divine restoration. Every hidden betrayal became the foundation for your elevation. Every silent tear became spiritual evidence that now becomes blessing release. Heaven sowed everything, and because heaven sowed everything, heaven now restores everything. Your story is shifting in real time. Your destiny will unfold in ways that even you never imagined possible. This is the beginning of a new lifetime version of you.